All right, so today on the deep dive, we're going to take a look at Asahi India Glass Ltd.
Okay.
We've got their Q2 FY25 report,
Yeah.
hot off the presses, as they say.
Very exciting.
And we also have some questions that analysts have been posing about Asahi India Glass.
Oh, very cool.
So just as a quick reminder for anybody who maybe needs it, Asahi India Glass is a major glass manufacturer.
Right?
They do automotive glass. They do float glass for construction.
Pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, they're a big deal.
Big deal.
So our goal today is to take a look at their Q2 performance and try to figure out what's driving some of the big changes we're seeing.
Sounds good.
Okay, so I guess the first thing that really jumps out from this report is that revenue from operations is up,
Yeah.
both standalone and consolidated, compared to Q2 of last year.
Right. And net profit also saw a year-on-year jump, too.
Yeah.
Standalone and consolidated, which is a good sign, right?
So it seems like they're having a pretty good year.
So far, so good, yeah.
Okay, well, let's look at those numbers a little bit more closely. Standalone revenue from operations for Q2 FY25 was 108,596 lakhs.
Okay.
Now, that is a little bit lower than Q1,
Right.
but it's still way higher than Q2 of last year.
Yeah, makes sense.
Consolidated revenue, on the other hand, was Rs 115,350 lakhs
Wow.
for Q2 FY25, and that's higher than the previous quarter and the same quarter last year.
So they're doing really well.
Yeah, so that consistent year-on-year growth in the consolidated revenue really kind of jumps out at you.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Analysts are wondering, what factors are driving these changes? Any
Yeah.
surprises there?
Right. What's the story?
What's the story?
Unfortunately, this report doesn't get into specifics,
Yeah.
but we can look at the bigger picture, right?
Yeah.
The automotive industry in India is doing really well right now, and
Yeah.
Asahi India Glass supplies a lot of that automotive glass, so
Yeah.
probably a big factor.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so moving on to profitability. The standalone net profit was Rs 9,272 lakhs in Q2 FY25, which is a big jump from the 7,646 lakhs that they had in the same quarter last year.
Right. Yeah.
Consolidated net profit was also strong
Yeah.
at Rs 9,454 lakhs for Q2,
Yeah.
compared to 7,669 lakhs in Q2 FY24.
Okay.
So they're turning revenue into profit, which is always good.
It is always good.
Now, the report also mentioned a deferred tax liability of
Yeah.
Rs 989 lakhs.
What is that about?
Well, this is basically due to changes in tax regulations for long-term capital gains on investments.
Okay.
So they have to account for this now, even though it's not an immediate cash outflow.
I see.
Kind of like setting money aside for taxes you'll owe later.
So it's not going to hurt them right now, but it's something to keep in mind down the road.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Analysts were also asking about their profit margins and operational efficiency.
Right.
How did Asahi India Glass control costs this quarter?
Well, if we want to get some clues about that, we need to look at the performance of each segment.
Yeah, good idea.
They break it down into automotive glass, float glass, and then this others category. Okay.
Which can be kind of a mixed bag.
Right. All right. So let's break it down.
Okay.
Starting with automotive glass, both standalone and consolidated revenue were up significantly
Yeah.
compared to the same quarter last year.
Makes sense.
Standalone segment results show a profit of Rs 9,530 lakhs in Q2 FY25.
Okay.
That's a nice jump from the Rs. 8,387 lakhs in Q2 FY24.
Right.
Consolidated segment results were pretty similar.
So clearly the automotive segment is playing a big role in their overall growth.
Yeah,
Likely due to that industry boom we were talking about earlier.
makes sense.
Now, Fluid Glass tells a similar story.
Mm-hmm.
Strong year-on-year revenue growth.
Standalone and consolidated.
Yeah, both.
Okay, so what about the standalone segment results?
Yeah, so for Float Glass, they saw a profit of Rs 6,770 lakhs in Q2 FY25,
Okay.
up from Rs 6,308 lakhs in Q2 FY24.
Okay.
The consolidated figures followed a similar trend.
All right, so both of these segments are major contributors to
Yeah.
Asahi India Glass's success this quarter.
But we can't forget about others.
Oh, right, others.
Standalone revenue for this segment in Q2 FY25 was FY25, 2,245 lakhs. Much smaller.
Yeah, definitely smaller, but actually up slightly from the previous quarter and the same quarter last year.
Okay.
So there's still some growth there.
What about consolidated?
Yeah, so on a consolidated basis, revenue for others was Rs 18,952 lakhs
Wow.
in Q2 FY25, which is a much bigger jump
Yeah.
compared to both the previous quarter and Q2 of last year.
Interesting. There must be something going on in there.
Yeah, there's a story there.
Yeah, a bit of a mystery box.
A little bit.
Okay, so looking at the segment, results a little bit closer.
Okay.
Automotive glass generated a profit of Rs, 9,530 lakhs,
Okay.
both standalone and consolidated
Right.
in Q2 FY25. Float glass followed with a profit of Rs, 6,770 lakhs standalone, and the same consolidated.
Makes sense.
But others is where it gets interesting.
Oh, how so?
Well, it shows a small standalone loss of Rs,
Yeah.
69 lakhs for Q2 FY25. But on a consolidated basis, it actually generated a profit of Rs 507 lakhs.
Oh, yeah.
So their consolidated operations within that other segment
Right.
are doing really well.
Yeah, even though the standalone numbers show a loss.
Yeah. What do you think is going on there?
Well, it's possible that this segment includes some subsidiaries
Yeah.
or joint ventures that are driving that profitability
Yeah.
at the consolidated level.
Makes sense.
But, we need more info from management to really figure it out.
Yeah, we need more data.
Always need more data.
Always need more data.
One thing I found interesting was that there wasn't any mention of sustainability initiatives.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, especially considering how important ESG factors are becoming.
Yeah.
Environmental, social, and governance.
Right.
It would have been nice to see some updates on what Asahi's doing in this area.
Right. Yeah, sustainability is a big deal for all companies these days.
Especially in industries like glass manufacturing.
Yeah, it's energy intensive, so.
It's important.
I wonder what our listeners think about this.
Yeah.
What kind of sustainability initiatives would you like to see from a company like Asahi India Glass?
Let us know.
Yeah, let us know in the comments.
Now, the report doesn't say much about management's outlook for the rest of FY25.
Right.
But given their strong Q2 performance, it's probably safe to assume that they're expecting continued growth, right?
I would agree. Yeah.
But we do have to remember that there are a lot of external factors that could influence a company's performance.
Oh, for sure.
Things like changes in the global economy, fluctuations in raw material prices,
Right.
shifts in consumer demand.
All those things.
All those things. It's a good reminder that financial analysis isn't just about looking at the past.
Yeah.
It's also about understanding potential challenges and opportunities in the future.
Right. Okay, so before we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Okay.
I want to leave you with a question to think about.
Right.
Given Asahi India Glass's strong Q2 performance and everything we've talked about with industry trends,
Right.
what are some potential challenges or market factors that could impact their performance in the coming quarters?
Interesting question.
Right.
Yeah.
So think about it, let us know your thoughts, and we'll be back shortly to continue our deep dive into Asahi India Glass, Ltd's Q2 FY25 financials.
Sounds good.
All right, so let's take a closer look at that automotive glass segment.
Okay.
Standalone revenue for Q2 FY25 was Rs, 75,272 lakhs.
All right.
That's a pretty big jump from the Rs. 70,331 lakhs they reported in Q1 FY25.
Yeah, they're on a roll.
But how does that compare to last year?
Right. Good question.
Well, in Q2 FY24, standalone revenue for automotive glass was Rs, 69,701 lakhs.
Okay.
So we're seeing that consistent year-on-year growth.
Yeah, just like the overall revenue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not just standalone. The consolidated figures for automotive glass follow a similar pattern.
Right.
Rs, 75,272 lakhs in Q2 FY25.
Okay.
Higher than both the previous quarter and Q2 FY24.
So definitely a major growth driver for them.
Yeah, I mean, it makes you wonder if maybe they're focusing more on this segment,
Yeah, it could be.
given how well the automotive industry in India is doing.
Right. Makes sense.
Okay, let's switch gears and look at the float glass segment.
Okay.
Standalone revenue for Q2 FY25 came in at Rs, 34,489 lakhs.
All right.
Now, that's actually a bit lower than the Rs. 36,686 lakhs they reported in Q1.
Little dip.
Yeah, but if we compare it to Q2 of last year, which was 38,400 lakhs,
Right.
the year-on-year trend is still positive.
So maybe some seasonal factors or something?
Yeah, maybe, or just some temporary fluctuations in demand.
Possibly.
What about the consolidated figures?
Yeah, consolidated revenue for float glass was Rs 34,489 lakhs in Q2 FY25.
Okay.
So slightly lower than Q1, but still higher than Q2 FY24.
So it seems like float glass is still contributing to that positive revenue trend.
Yeah, but maybe not as dramatically as automotive glass.
Right.
All right, now let's talk about that other segment.
Mysterious others.
Right, standalone revenue for others in Q2 FY25 was Rs 2,245 lakhs.
Okay, so much smaller than the other two.
Definitely, but it's slightly higher than both Q1 and Q2 of last year.
So still some growth there.
Right, some modest growth.
Now, what about the consolidated figures for others?
Yes, that's where it gets interesting.
Right, because we saw a big jump earlier.
Exactly, so the consolidated revenue for others was Rs 18,952 lakhs for Q2 FY25.
Wow, okay, that is significant.
Yeah, much higher than the previous quarter and the same quarter last year.
So what's driving that growth?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
Could be new product lines, expansions into different markets, who knows?
Yeah, the report doesn't really tell us.
Unfortunately not, so we're left to speculate.
All right, so let's look at the segment results in terms of profit.
Okay.
Automotive glass contributed Rs, 9,530 lakhs, both standalone and consolidated.
Right.
For Q2 FY25, float glass generated profit of Rs, 6,770 lakhs standalone.
Yeah.
And the same consolidated.
So those two segments are doing really well.
Yeah, they're definitely carrying their weight.
Now, others is interesting.
Okay, how so?
Well, it had a small standalone loss of R69 lakhs
Right.
for Q2 FY25, but it generated a consolidated profit of Rs 507 lakhs.
So a profit on a consolidated basis.
Exactly.
That's pretty strange.
It is a bit odd.
Yeah, I wonder if it has something to do with those subsidiaries or joint ventures.
Could be. Maybe there are some strategic synergies happening at the consolidated level.
Yeah, maybe.
It's hard to say without more information.
Okay, so we've looked at the revenue numbers, the profit figures.
We've broken down the segments.
Yeah. Anything else from the report that stands out to you?
Well, one thing I noticed was that consolidated revenue seems to be growing faster than standalone revenue.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah, it could mean that they're really focused on expansion and diversification.
Through those acquisitions and partnerships.
Exactly.
So maybe that's part of what's driving that growth in the others segment.
Could be. It definitely suggests that we should pay close attention to those consolidated figures.
Yeah, because they might give us a better picture of their overall strategy.
Right. It's not just about the standalone numbers.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
Revenue, profitability, segments.
But there's one more thing we need to talk about.
Oh, right. Sustainability.
Yeah, the report didn't mention any specific initiatives,
No, it didn't.
but I think it's still an important topic to discuss.
Absolutely, especially in today's world.
Companies need to be thinking about their environmental and social impact.
For sure. And glass manufacturing uses a lot of energy.
Right. So it'd be interesting to know what Asahi India Glass is doing in this area.
Yeah. What do our listeners think?
Yeah, what kind of sustainability initiatives would you like to see?
Let us know in the comments.
Now, just because the report doesn't mention anything
Right.
doesn't necessarily mean they're not doing anything.
Exactly. We don't have the full picture.
But it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
Agreed.
Okay, so the report also doesn't give us much in terms of management's outlook for the rest of FY25.
Right. No specific projections.
But I think it's safe to say that they're probably expecting continued growth.
Yeah, I would think so, based on their Q2 performance.
But, of course, there are always those external factors,
Right. The things we can't control.
like global economic conditions, raw material prices,
Consumer demand.
all that stuff.
It's a volatile world out there.
So they need to be ready to adapt.
Exactly. Stay agile.
Okay, before we move on to part 3,
All right.
I want to circle back to those analyst questions we talked about at the beginning.
The ones about their long-term growth plans.
Yeah, the report doesn't really address those,
No, it doesn't.
but I'm sure they'll be talking about them on the earnings call.
Oh, definitely.
So we'll have to wait and see what they say.
Should be interesting.
All right, let's take a short break,
Sounds good.
and we'll come back and wrap up this deep dive with some final thoughts. Welcome back
Back for the final round.
to our deep dive into Asahi India Glass.
Can you believe how much ground we've covered?
I know, it's amazing, right?
All that revenue, profit growth, the segments.
Yeah, and we even managed to talk about sustainability.
Always important.
Always important.
Yeah.
So before we wrap things up,
Okay.
let's try to look at the bigger picture here.
Yeah, zoom out a little.
What's the takeaway about Asahi India Glass's position in the market? What does the future hold?
Well, one thing that really strikes me is how resilient they are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the global economy is a little uncertain right now,
All right.
but they're still managing to grow their revenue and profits.
Yeah, that's a good sign.
It means they have a strong base, and they're in a good position to handle challenges.
Right, and their performance in those key segments, automotive and float glass,
Yeah, that's huge.
shows that they're taking advantage of those industry trends.
Right. The automotive industry in India is booming, and float glass is still in high demand.
So they've got some good momentum.
Definitely. But, we always have to remember
Yeah.
things can change.
Of course, those external factors.
Exactly, like supply chains, inflation, consumer spending.
Yeah, it can be a roller coaster.
It can. So they need to be ready to adapt.
Absolutely.
That's why those analyst questions about their long-term plans are so important.
Right. How are they going to keep this up?
Exactly.
We'll have to see what they say on that earnings call.
I'm really curious to hear what their strategy is.
Me too. One thing I'm particularly interested in is their investment in innovation.
Oh, go there.
New products, improving their processes, new markets,
Yeah, they need to stay ahead of the game.
and of course, their sustainability strategy.
Right, even though we don't have all the details yet.
It's going to be a big factor for investors and for their public image.
It all comes together, you know? Strong financials, a commitment to sustainability.
It's a powerful combination.
It really is.
So I think it's safe to say that Asahi India Glass is a company on the rise.
They've shown impressive growth, profitability, and they're in a strong position.
But, as always, we need to stay informed, watch those external factors.
And keep asking those tough questions.
Exactly. That's what helps us understand the business world.
That's why we do the deep dive.
We hope you enjoyed this episode.
I hope you learned something new.
And maybe it even sparked your curiosity to do some more research on your own.
Always good to keep learning.
Knowledge is power, right?
Couldn't agree more.
All right. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.
See you next time.